Hello, everybody. I'm Drew Duncan, and this is the Drew Duncan Sports Show. Plenty to get to. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Caleb Williams, who is now the focal point of a book that is coming out in September, American Kings, a biography of quarterbacks. We're going to be talking about Bill Belichick in North Carolina and that whole situation, my goodness. And then, of course, the NFL, they've been releasing team schedules, videos, a letdown for the most part. A couple of really good ones out there, though. But regardless, Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears, I'm sure everybody remembers the drama from a season ago when Caleb Williams' pop, Carla Williams, was exceptionally vocal about not wanting him to go to the Chicago Bears. Now, there were a lot of rumors about things that allegedly Caleb Williams was saying. 90% of it was not even proven. One of the things that we know for sure that he did say is, I don't get nervous. Well, that proved to be a little bit of a different story. Obviously, you make it to the NFL, you start playing in NFL games, nerves do hit you. We saw that with Caleb Williams. Regardless of what anybody wants to talk about with that offensive line, which we're going to get into here in a little bit. But Carla Williams' pop, he said, look, he didn't want his kid to go to Chicago. He said it's where quarterbacks go to die. Obviously, probably pointing out not just what happened with Justin Fields, but Mitch Trubisky, et cetera, which, by the way, I didn't think Tribs was that good anyways. And they had a quarterback before him at North Carolina that I felt was a much better quarterback, but is what it is. Caleb is allegedly on record as saying that he didn't think that he could do it with their old offensive coordinator, Waldron, there. The Bears supposedly told him, look, we're going to draft you no matter what. Now, Caleb ended up kind of changing his mind, right? And just going, look, I could go there. I can do this. But it looked like him and Minnesota had got along really good. And supposedly the writings in this book and the documentary finding was, well, I really want to go to Minnesota. It was to the point where allegedly Caleb Williams was thinking about going to the UFL, the old XFL, now the UFL. Look, how much validity there is in this book. I can't imagine somebody journaling something that's going to be completely untrue like that. I can't imagine somebody journaling something that is going to be, because with everything coming out now, even before September, which who knows what's going to come out in September, with it all coming out of the woodwork now, my thing is it's detrimental to the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams and their relationship. It's detrimental to the players. It's detrimental to the locker room. The locker room, anybody who's ever played a sport will tell you, is the single most important place in sports. When you get respect in the locker room, whether or not they like you becomes a different scenario. It's good if the guys like you, but if they respect you, that's the biggest scenario. That's the best case scenario. Because they will break their necks for you, man. If they respect the game that you have, and let's not forget, a season ago, we saw DJ Moore getting frustrated. The defense was carrying that football team in a couple of wins, especially early on in the season. Man, I'm telling you right now, it's not a good look. I don't know how Caleb is going to get a hold of this. Look, his pop saying is whatever he's saying, right? Caleb would literally have no control over anything that his old man is going to say. Do I necessarily agree with his pop stepping in and saying, look, this is the deal? I mean, we've seen this before. Julius Thomas tied in with the Denver Broncos. We've seen it before at the collegiate level. The collegiate level, I think, is one thing. When you get into the league, it's a completely different scenario. You know, Eli didn't want to go and play for the original team that drafted him. Okay, he didn't want to go to the Chargers. His pop had kind of stepped in. I didn't necessarily agree with his pop stepping in. But if Eli didn't want to go to the Bolts, who cared? I supported him. I supported Bo Jackson. I supported John Elway. Elway didn't want to go. He didn't trust the organization. He said, look, I think you're lying about moving the team. And John Elway ended up being correct in how he felt. He didn't think the Colts organization knew what they were doing. So he just said, look, I'm not going to go there. I've been telling you for 3 months, I'm not going to play for you. But they said, well, we're going to draft you no matter what. Well, so did the Yankees, and John Elway almost went to go play baseball. But he was able to finagle a trade and go to the Denver Broncos. The same way that Eli was finagled a trade, the same way that Bo finagled a trade. The same way that I think if Caleb really wanted to, he probably could have got a trade. But I think he was more afraid of his image than he was in wanting to do what he really wanted to do. I think if he would have really wanted to go to Minnesota that badly, because a lot of people were thinking that JJ was going to go there anyways, they felt it was the best fit. And that's the other thing. Now it's going to be, well, was Caleb really the first pick from Minnesota and not McCarthy? See, now that potentially creates a problem because they're all in on him now. Things like this, when they start to come out, they can really be detrimental. Some people are able to move on. Some people don't really care about it. But there are people that I guarantee are going to hang on to this thing. As far as Caleb Williams, if he didn't want to go to the Bears, I would have supported it. I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be that great in the NFL. I'm just being honest. I said it a couple of years ago that I felt that Jane Daniels was the better prospect. And obviously, we see the results from a season ago. You can blame that offensive line all you want to. They made a lot of moves to help out Caleb Williams when they should have been doing it for Justin Fields. They let him go. They gave him all to Caleb. Now, understand, he was just a rookie, okay? And not everybody's a Jane Daniels. You know what I mean? It's really hard to be a rookie in the NFL and really make a big impact. You have rare guys, but they are few and far in between. You got them. Now you got to see what's going to happen, right? You have to lean into the future. But with all this coming out, now it's a locker room thing from here on in. If Caleb wants to make statements, he can, but all it's going to do is make it look like all he's doing is backtracking and that he's just trying to save face. If I'm Caleb Williams, I'm going to say, look, no comment. I'm going to my guys about this. I'm having a team meeting, and that's it. Everything that we're doing is in-house from here on in. And I don't give a damn what's in that book because we are all moving forward. Which, by the way, this is all going to resurface and then some in September when that book officially gets printed. If ESPN and all these other outlets already have their hands on it, believe me when I tell you, it is going to be worse here in a few months. Just in time for the season to start. Speaking of the season starting, a lot of teams released their schedules. Wasn't a fan of a good majority of them. To be honest, I did not see the one where, the Colts, because obviously they had the apology. There were things in there from Microsoft. They didn't have their permission. Tyreek getting basically pulled over by a boat. Now, his manager has already come out and said he called me. He thought it was funny. He didn't want him to take it down. Regardless, it did get taken down. The Browns one was just bizarre. It was like a warlock thing or something, man. I don't know how to really describe it, but I wasn't a fan of it. I'm watching this thing. I'm like, yo, this is kind of cringy, bro. I'm not really a big fan of what was going on with that. The Bills obviously played into the nostalgic factor. Look, when I first saw that, I was getting excited. I was like, please, man, if they're talking about AI, let it be AI. The AI I know. The answer, Allen Iverson, the AI. And it was cool because all he did was he just said, here you go, here's the Bills schedule. And then, of course, I'm sure everybody saw it, right? Because he stayed true. He was like, go Josh Allen. He ain't going to say go Bills, but he said go Josh Allen. I was with it. But honestly, out of all of them, the Raiders one was probably my favorite, especially the part where you see where the Browns, and it was the boo-boo, and it was covered up. And then there was the Bears. It looked like a bear took a shit. I was like, all right, bro, I see you. That Raiders one was pretty good. That was pretty funny. Eagles was all right. It was all right. What was another one I saw? It was... like I said, most of them were okay. The Bears one was all right. I didn't really like the scenario, but they did good within the scenario. Checking the phones and throwing them in the water. Should have said cheese. That was pretty funny. That one was pretty good. So that one kind of like it had its moments, but the best overall one to me though was definitely the Raiders. That was pretty good. All right, Bill Belichick. Which speaking of coaches, really quick, did you see that they they had Pete Carroll's gum for the year delivered? That was pretty good. But speaking of coaches, Bill Belichick, man, boy, that whole thing. Look, I already said from the beginning that whether Bill Belichick can go and say the NFL all he wants to, going to North Carolina is a demotion. Nobody in the NFL offered that man a job. That's all there is to it. Without Brady, his record is horrendous. What did he ever accomplish at Cleveland? Ducked out on the Jets. The first year he was there in New England, they had a losing record. The minute Brady dips out, they're not that good, which, by the way, Tom beat them in their backyard. Really, when you think about it, I don't think it was necessarily the scandals that were following him around. The alleged stealing of the playbooks and videotaping practices and, deflating footballs and all this other stuff. I don't think any of that really played into anything. I think it was 100%. Everybody saw how progressively worse the Patriots got without him having Tom Brady. It's just a point of fact. Taking a job at North Carolina is a demotion. Any collegiate job. I wouldn't have cared if it was Alabama. And I know what people would say, well, come on, that's the best. Look at the way that Saban left that university, yada, yada, yada. Nah, I wouldn't care, man. Going from the NFL to college is a demotion. Go ahead and ask Mike Tomlin about that. Remember, he was asked about collegiate jobs, and he said, is anybody asking Bill Belichick or Andy Reid about that? He said he had the best job in all of professional sports. Why would he want to coach college football? He said there's not a booster with a big enough check. Let that sink in. Everybody who's in the NFL knows that it's a demotion. Think about all the coaches that could not cut the mustard in the NFL. Chip Kelly being one of them. Let's be clear, even though he's the collegiate GOAT, Nick Saban couldn't cut the mustard in the NFL. Urban Meyer, maybe the second or third best coach in all of college football history, couldn't cut the mustard in the NFL. It's still the NFL. Regardless of all the rule changes and people talking about how soft it is and all this other stuff, it's still the NFL. It's still the creme de la creme. It's still the Premier League. And it's still the hardest to coach and play in. And that's all there is to it. It's a demotion. 100%. And this whole thing with him and his girlfriend, the season hasn't even started, and already the universities had to step in and say, no, it's okay. She could be at the facility. You've had Bleacher Report and a number of other organizations that have had to write retractive statements. You've got Bill Belichick and his girlfriend wanting to be babyface in every interview that he's doing. He doesn't want to talk about their relationship. Bro, you're 70-something years old, dating a 20-something-year-old. People are going to want to know how you met, man. I don't know why everybody, and here's the thing, right? They were talking about, well, we had this kind of agreement that we were really going to stick to the book and coaching. And, okay, bro, they wouldn't be doing their journalistic job if they didn't ask you those questions. And you know this. You've been around the media since the 80s, my man. Literally, when you were studying under Bill Parcells in the 80s, when you were a defensive coordinator back then, you've been around the media since then. 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Come on, man. Stop it. We're in the 2020s. Stop it. You really need to get a grip. And she's there being his handler. Oh, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to discuss this. Now you're putting him in a bad situation. Do you know what that looks like? Now you've just given the world of assumptions to be wide open. Maybe if you just owned up to it, whatever the hell it is, people might embrace it. You'd be surprised how comfortable people are with the truth, you know? And I'm just saying that you can't expect everybody to just babyface you. You can't. You've already had this kind of crazy career. Now you've got this whole situation going on. You're trying to snowball it all you want to. You're trying to put your spin on it, your coach thing, and go, look, it's just this, it's just that, it's no big deal. You know, everything is separate, everything is fine. Like, maybe to you two it is. And at the end of the day, it's your guys' relationship, and I don't really give a damn about it, if I'm being honest. But what's going on is you were signed on to be the head coach of North Carolina, and all this is a big distraction. You're already copycatting Deion Sanders with the no names on the back of the jerseys for the practices and the spring games and all that stuff. You're getting more credit for it than you should. You know you are, and you're not giving Deion his props. Now you don't even know what you're doing with the football team, really. The transfer portal's changed college football. The NIL has changed college football. There's too many stringent rules. I mean, it's not going to work. I've been saying this from the jump, and now you got this whole thing going. Like, I don't personally understand why he didn't just stay retired. To me, all this does is beat up the legacy of Bill Belichick. If he had got out after that 11-5 season, even though they lost in the playoffs, I think everybody would have just called it good. But he just couldn't let it go. I don't know, man. It's not a good look. Nothing about this seems savory. Nothing about this seems like it is going to work. It's just going to be a big distraction. And think about this. When September comes along, what do you think people are going to be talking about when North Carolina is getting ready to play against anybody? That damn relationship. Now, is it because it's an easy angle? Yes. Is it because everybody's intrigued when they should be minding their own business? Yes. But this is what it's going to be. A circus show every single day. It's amazing to me that people have been talking about Shedeur Sanders in the alleged circus show that is going to follow him with Deion, but for some reason, this circus show is okay. I think everybody needs to get real. And I think Bill needs to get real. And I think if he would just start owning this, then it would probably go away. Stop trying to head coach everything, man. That's all I'm saying. Whatever. It's none of my business. I don't care. Do you? Whatever, man. All right, everybody. I am Drew Duncan. This is the Drew Duncan Sports Show. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. TikTok is The Real Drew Duncan, the RL Drew Duncan. Same as the YouTube. I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Simply tell your device to play the Drew Duncan Sports Show. Everybody stay safe. Take care of yourselves and have a wonderful rest of your night and or day.